Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Heart, our English language programme here on Angelus TV. I'm Sister Mary, and my guest this afternoon is Bianca Alba. Bianca is a legal counsellor who has devoted her life, her working life, to JRS here in Romania. A warm welcome, Bianca, and thank you for making time for us this afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. Could we begin by just asking what drew your heart to working for JRS? You are really the face behind JRS, and your husband is the director, and you work quite closely together. And I'm wondering, sometimes we join an organisation for one motive, but we remain for another. Could we just explore that a little bit about what first drew your heart and what has kept you?
So I have joined JRS in 2009, but I was already working in this refugee and asylum field, and I knew the work of JRS. And I always admired the way they were doing things and the way they treated people they were serving. And I think that initially this was exactly what drew me towards JRS. The way they were accompanying people and the way they were treating the people they were serving. And when I joined JRS, it was also for the purpose of developing a legal department, because at that moment JRS was not able to provide legal counseling services, and it was very much needed. So it was a task that I assumed, and a mission in accompanying people by providing legal counseling, but also by developing a team of people who are able to accompany the refugees with specialized services.
Wow. So being able to put your skills and your competency to work for an organisation, a very special organisation really, that was in need of your competence and drew your heart, I presume, because you were able to serve and you've stayed.
Exactly. I think that us in JRS, even at that moment and nowadays, we are very much inspired by Pedro Arrupe, much more than we are aware of it. And the way of doing things and trying to cover the needs that are not covered by the others, trying to be man and woman for the others, and trying to be by the side of the refugees we defend, we accompany, and we serve. This is something that is very specific to us as a team. And it's one of the reasons for which I stayed.
Thank you, that's really clear. And for our viewers who may not know who Pedro Arrupe is, could you just tell us that?
It was a wonderful human being who was present when the Hiroshima bomb hit. And what he did was to put all his knowledge and forces and all the people who were around him in the service of the others. It was the power of sacrifice and helping the others, which I believe protected them in that situation, but also gave a wonderful example of humanity. And it was the same person who later on, witnessing the refugees fleeing Cambodia, decided to create a non-governmental organization able to support and help the refugees. And in this way, in 1980, Jesuit Refugee Service was created and started accompanying in a professional way the refugees. And it has developed across the years in many areas of the world, from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe, of course. And it has spread, and it is one of the initiatives supported by the Jesuits, in which we are close to people and we are trying to do our best to help them in any way that we can.
Yes, and I think it's one of the major forces of credibility for the Jesuits from my perspective and from when people have spoken to me about that, because it's a clear need and it touches into something where people can contribute, each with their own skill or competence. And another thing that some of our viewers may have read or heard, the prayer that Pedro Rupe wrote about what is it that gets you up in the morning? What is your passion? Love is what will drive your life, really. Find out what it is that you're passionate about and follow it. You've mentioned a few times the word accompany, and that rings a bell with me because my congregation is called Faithful Companions of Jesus. The word companion and the Jesuit Socios Society of Jesus has this idea of breaking bread with others, pan, com, that we're not doing this alone, but that we walk with others. We're not handing down, but walking alongside. So could you explore a little bit about that for us? What is it like? What have you seen in your time at JRS? A specific thing of accompaniment that is quite special to JRS in comparison to other organizations?
I think that I have some examples which I can share and are a very good illustration of this, what we mean accompaniment in GRS. So on one side, it's of course really going with someone who needs to go in front of the authority, accompanying so that we ensure the translation, or we ensure that the legal aspects of the law, his rights are respected, making sure that the person understands which are the steps that they need to follow from a legal and procedural point of view. Sometimes it can be something very easy, like accompanying a person again to a bank to open a bank account, and they usually need someone to translate or to mediate the relation, or to find an apartment owner who agrees to offer with rent his apartment to a refugee, and discussing and establishing exactly the details, rights and obligations for both parties and so on. So these are just some examples of our daily work. But it also means in special moments when we have families with children and they give birth. And then we accompany the family in a different way because we need to go there to the hospital and help with the formalities. And then we try, if the parents want to baptize the child in any religion they choose, we try to help them, offer support in this regard. Or sometimes it means that we just sit together and we discuss exactly what are the needs of that person, or what we can do to improve the conditions for other people who are in similar conditions. And we get their feedback and their solution, and do our best that in the way we do things, we adapted to their needs and to the solutions they were offering. These are just some of the examples of the way we consider accompaniment should be done.
Very powerful. And I actually witnessed myself one such case a few years ago, a mother giving birth here, being very anxious and asking for a Bible in English. And that is another way that you accompany, but never imposed, just listening to what the person asks for.
It's true. Sometimes we visit the public custody places where people are placed, so they are there in a closed space, confined, and they don't have so much connection with the exterior. And seeing a face once per week or every 2 weeks, it depends, somebody who comes there just to speak with them, that is another way of accompanying those people who otherwise might feel isolated, forgotten, punished, or any other bad feelings that they may encounter in this situation.
Yeah, how terrible to feel that somebody might feel punished by circumstances that they
It's
meet.
true. It's true. Because here we talk about migrants or rejected refugees who didn't do any criminal offense or something like this, but they just do not have the visa, or they just did not manage to fulfill the criteria to be granted a form of protection. So it's not a punishment, but it's just the way the law is applied. And for them, it might look like they are punished.
What do you think, Bianca, we can learn as a church? We talk about being a migrant church. The message of the gospel is always being taken from one place to another, from one community to another. If we call ourselves a migrant church, what can we learn from the migrants who are forced to move, from character, attitudes, anything like that? Is there anything waiting for us to learn, do you think?
I think that if we keep our hearts open and our eyes wide open as well, we can learn from every person we serve and every person that we meet. Sometimes it is about resilience, sometimes it is about their power to survive and to go on, coming from very, very far countries and surviving the journey, going here in a new culture, in a place where they do not know the language and they do not know anything, managing to go through the asylum procedures or other legal procedures and surviving every day with the hope that next day it will be better, or with the hope that they will manage to have a better legal situation, to be protected, and so on. So this can come from a single man who is accommodated in our center, or we have even more powerful messages from the families who are here with children. And we see the parents trying to do their best for their children, not only to survive, but to ensure that the children are well taken care of. And this is very powerful.
I've heard and listened to mothers saying all they want is their children to do better than them, to have chance for an education here, for instance. Very moving. I love the way you said we need to keep our eyes open as well as an open heart, because sometimes we can just miss what is there in front of us because we turn away, or we close our eyes, or we just raise our eyes to heaven instead of keeping our eyes fixed and asking ourselves, what am I seeing? What can I do? And you mentioned about resilience, something that is so needed for refugees and migrants that you meet. And I'm wondering how that applies to yourself, because in the last few years, in the last 4 years, we've had the drama of the pandemic and then the invasion of Ukraine, which almost is hard to imagine that somebody could be faced with these 2 major catastrophes and have to continue to offer hope. How do you maintain that resilience in yourself?
I think that I'm learning by doing.
Okay.
And to go back to the pandemic,
Yes.
when it all started, our first thought in GRS was how to protect our beneficiaries and how to protect the team.
How to protect.
How to protect the people that are around us. And that was very important because if you remember, it was lockdown. So people needed to stay inside their houses, inside their homes with the family, and that was fine. But the people who were accommodated in our Pedro Arrupe Center, well, there it was much more difficult for the community just to stay inside. They were not in their houses with their families. They were just there in our common dormitory and without any means of subsistence. They were losing their jobs because most of them were working in constructions or car washing companies, and they were absolutely isolated there, or that was the perspective. And what we did was to offer them a hot meal every day to make sure that they have all the necessary items to protect themselves, masks, gloves, and you remember what was needed to make sure that we respect the rules. And I think that by doing this and protecting them, this is how we've learned resilience in those 2 years, in 2022 and 2021, because we never left anyone behind us. We were going together through these difficult moments. We were not only protecting our families, our colleagues, but all the ones who were around us and needed our assistance. We couldn't stop saying we are waiting to see what is happening and then we provide services. Such things could not exist. But we did our best, and I can see that we didn't have any cases, almost any cases of people being infected, or at least they had such mild version. We felt like we were really protected by God in such situation when everything around us was so tragic and difficult, and people still managed to keep their health.
Yes.
That was very impressive, but it was always thinking about the others and how to better do our work to help them. This is what was driving us in those difficult moments. We didn't think about ourselves that much, but how to protect the others.
So all the energy went into thinking how to protect
Exactly.
the others. And you must feel very, very content at how that panned out for you, really, with no major cases of illness during that time.
We felt actually grateful because it wasn't something that you could prepare for, or you could knew exactly which steps you need to respect so that it happens. It was really in the hands of God.
Gosh, we've talked about eyes now, the hand of God, right? That you felt almost Immanos to us, like the hymn. Everything was in God's hands. We commend this work, and it was carried and held.
It's true.
So,
And when we were almost out of this pandemic phase, it's like instantly we needed to face a totally different reality, because the war in Ukraine started, and because thousands of women with children and vulnerable persons started to come to Romania, and we started helping them. So we needed immediately to react and to find other ways of supporting refugees. If I can give an image, it was exactly the opposite, from doing the work in a way that protects the others and keeping the distance but not leaving anyone behind, then exactly instantly throwing yourself in the middle of people who are coming in thousands and they were asking for support. And that was another life lessons in which we were again asked to forget about ourselves in a way, but to think about how to protect the others, but in a better way, or let's say in a higher scale, at a higher scale, because we were not used to receiving at once so many people in need. And now it was an emergency phase, and people were coming every day and every night, calling, needing support, and so on. And we immediately organized ourselves so that we can offer this support.
I remember those days when at the Gare du Nord, there were hundreds of people coming off the train, and people from JRS were going down and meeting people and bringing them back to either the JRS or on to another place that you knew about. So from protecting and keeping a distance but not leaving anyone behind, to going forward to meeting people in their hundreds.
It is exactly the opposite from a point of view, from an external point of view. But internally, we all felt again that we just love people and we are there to help them. But we just need to find other ways of expressing it. And this is what we did. Finding other ways of expressing it meant for us that, first of all, we were very open to be visited by anyone who wanted to offer their services. Volunteers who join us and donors who come to see our work and then decide to support so that we can do more and better at a larger scale.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful story. And I'm reminded of the director at JRS in England, who was a member of Parliament, but chose to leave politics for JRS because she felt she could effect more change through an NGO like that than being the Minister for Education. I think she was in the coalition government. Is that something that you feel too? Would you say to those considering a career that you can actually achieve more by devoting yourself to a very well set up now organisation like JRS?
I think that we always try to invite people not only to get to know us and see the way we do things, but to put on the table which are their better skills. And this is something that we try to discuss with our new staff members and our volunteers and anyone who comes. There are things that we need to do because they are part of our programs, but there are many other things about which we dream or which we have in our hearts. And these things can be organized in a professional way in this organization because it offers the space for such initiatives. And I believe that it is one of the reasons for which people who have experience are attracted to work with us, because not only they can fulfill their profession, but they can also follow what it is in their heart.
And you have a really diverse group of people working at JRS, don't you? From all kinds of backgrounds, from teaching, from law, from medical background, from psychology, and all forging forth a path that's devoting themselves not to their own career advancement, but to serving the common good.
It is true. We are very complex as a team, and everyone comes with his skills. And this is very rich because we learn from each other and we support each other in our work. And I think it's part of our holistic approach. Because you can come to GRS and you can be offered legal advice, or you can be offered accommodation, or you can be offered educational programs and so on. You can find bits and pieces of what you need. Of course, not everything, because when it's something that goes beyond our capacity or knowledge, we have a referral mechanism and we send people over to other organizations who are very specialized on specific topics.
So being able to recognise limits.
Exactly.
And if there are people watching, maybe students who would like an internship or an experience, do you offer that kind of thing to young people who have maybe not decided on their career but want to see what they might do in the future?
We actually have an ongoing policy of accepting volunteers and interns in our organization, and we collaborate not only at national level, but we have also formal partnership with university from France or other countries in Europe, and we do encourage such initiatives because we do believe that it can be an experience that it can be life-changing for a young person to put himself in the service of the others, but also to learn rules, to learn how to work in a professional way. It can really improve their way of seeing life and of choosing what to do next.
Bianca, unfortunately the programme is coming to an end, and although I would love to chat with you for much longer, I'd just like to thank you for being that face of JRS and for all that you do to inspire us.
Thank you so much. I believe that everything we do, it's done together.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for watching.